Indiana Fever and WNBA. I only want to be with you. I'm sorry. I apologize. But I had to do it for this story. The singer of Hootie and the Blowfish and I guess, and solo music artist Darius Rucker, obviously been around a long time. But I thought it was interesting because the Fever shared a note that he penned. And the note that he penned speaks probably to a lot of folks who are listening to me and watching me right now. Because new fans in the WNBA have been painted to be some sort of pariah. And that's just wrong, right? Like any organization, any brand should want new fans. And the WNBA got so many new fans. And a lot of them came through Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. And Darius Rucker is a real-time example of that, somebody who is pretty well known, saying basically that. I mean, this was what the Indiana Fever shared, the beginning of his note. Dear Indiana Fever and the WNBA, I want to thank you for an awesome summer of joy, agony, screams of happiness, cries of despair, and countless hours of armchair coaching. And saying we know exactly why we lost. My girlfriend and I watched every Fever game and got to see truly how great the basketball play in your league really is. I want to thank AB, my fellow Gamecock, CC, one of the greatest I've ever seen, Mitch, Kelsey Mitchell, Buckets, and Melissa Smith, I guess, Holly, Lexi Hull, Didi, Damaris Dantas, and the other great players and coaches in the Fever for a great season. So that's what he said about the Indiana Fever. But if you actually go to his account and pull up the rest of that note, he talks about the rest of the WNBA as well, and how the Fever, allowed him to piggyback and watch and appreciate the rest of the WNBA. He singles out Arike Ogunbowale and Asia Wilson and Sabrina Ionescu, Brianna Stewart, Courtney Williams, Nafisa Collier, and then expresses his excitement for women's college basketball and the Gamecocks. But basically says, he's so in. He's in on women's basketball now, which is a feeling a lot of people probably share. And I think that is representative of something that has happened in real life and isn't discussed as much, because you either have people going like Caitlin Clark brought all the fans to the league and everything else is trash, or people going the WNBA was popular, so they didn't need Caitlin Clark. And the reality is that Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever brought so many more eyeballs to the league. But a lot of those eyeballs saw and liked everything else and learned other players, learned other teams. Some even learned the sport. There's a lot of there are new basketball fans because of this, right? There are probably going to be new NBA fans because of this, because the NBA season is tipping off, and you've got people who didn't watch professional basketball before now tune into professional basketball. Hell, I'll watch the NBA. I just watched the WNBA. You're going to get new women's college basketball fans because of this, because people saw and liked what they saw, and they go, oh, okay, women's college basketball starting. Let me follow the next group. Let me follow Paige Beckers, who I've heard about, and Juju Watkins, who I've heard about. That's something that's going to happen. And then you'll see even more growth in the WNBA next season once they run it back and get back and have a off season of promotion and everything like that. Hopefully, Caitlin Clark is more embraced coming up with this CBA and everything else along those lines. But I feel like that is a spirit and sentiment that has been missing and not promoted enough, is exactly what Darius Rucker did. What we've kind of done here, I think, on this channel and beyond, what I've tried to do with the brands that I'm building. And that is, it's dishonest to not credit Caitlin Clark and the Fever, and Clark specifically, obviously, for being the driving force in the explosive popularity. But at the same time, we can also celebrate everybody else. Like, those things can happen at the same time. It's something when I've talked about the ratings, I've made that a point. I've said, hell, the ratings with Clark are here and the ratings without Clark are here, but the ratings without Clark are still here compared to where they were before, which was here. And both of those are positive stories. And it is that I know that it's so cliche to say a rising tide lifts all boats at this point, but that is exactly what we're dealing with. And women's basketball is never going to be the same. It's never going to be the same. This was it. This was the moment. When you look back, I would have never in a billion years thought that, women's basketball would outrate the men in college basketball, which happened last year in the Final Four and beyond. That happened. The women outrated the men. I would have never thought in a million years that I would be covering, me personally, women's basketball over men's basketball. I grew up an NBA head, a hoops head. I never in a million years would have thought that would be the case. So the way that gets trashed sometimes is almost obscene. Like, how is that even possible to trash? How is it possible to reject that notion? To not realize what's going on here. Not understand the power and the magnitude of the moment. I mean, Caitlin Clark was at a Nike event and she spoke on it and always, as always, had the correct perspective. Here's what
merch or what, the amount of people that have showed up in the stadiums, from the viewership numbers to people really wanting to wear a WNBA player's jersey or buy their merch or whatever it is, or have their shoe. Just how it's evolved in such a short period of time, I think shows everyone, there is real opportunity here, and there has been opportunity here. So I think that's what's so exciting. So the more we can continue to expand that and continue to have games on national television and get people in seats, because when they show up in a stadium, like, they're always coming back. That's usually how it works. They fall in love with a team or a player, or maybe they go for one player and then they like another player. So I think the more people can get out and watch the W or watch the college game or whatever it is, the better it's going to be for the future of the game.
I love that. I have said for a couple of years now, pick a city and pull up to a women's game, see what it's all about. And just like Caitlin said, I promise you won't regret the experience, because there's been so much energy around the game as of late.
And, I think that goes for the Liberty. I've said the vibes in Brooklyn are incredible, right? So this idea that all these new fans are hurting or negative is it's bullshit, is what it is. It's bullshit. There may be, anytime you increase the numbers exponentially, the people on the margins, the worst, are going to be amplified to a certain extent. It's a numbers game. But thanks to Hootie and the Blowfish, Darius Rucker, for providing a real-time example of a fairly well-known celebrity of exactly what everybody's been trying to say. That people come in for Clark, come in for the Fever, and leave WNBA fans. And there you have it.